Hi, my name is Steven and welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be talking to you about dealing with personal disappointments, how I work through them. Everyone has gone through self-disappointment at some point in their lives. This can manifest in a personal letdown or just not meeting the expectation of others. And this can lead you down a path of a range of emotions, from mild irritations to crippling self-doubt. Obviously, it depends on the circumstances and context of that disappointment in your life. Throughout my life, I've encountered a diverse array of disappointments. And this has caused me to go introspective and figure out what was the root cause of that disappointment, and also suss out some of the emotional impacts stemming from that disappointment. In each of these instances, I found valuable lessons that I learned through that experience of self-disappointment. And I've used these experiences to help drive my personal growth and development, so that I have more tools at my disposal to overcome future disappointments in my life. By sharing my experiences and strategies, I hope to help others go through their disappointments, so you can understand valuable insights and navigate your own personal journey through various setbacks, and overall be more resilient and grow personally. So in today's video, I'm going to talk about my background, my guide to dealing with disappointments, and my general thoughts. And before we start, be sure to like, subscribe, comment, share with your friends, hit that notification bell if you like this content. And here we go. My life has been a series of revolving doors of disappointments and learning from them. Through each of these experiences, I learned something new about myself that I hadn't before. And crucially, it showed me a weakness about myself and a path to correct for it. Early on in my school days, I was disappointed that I wasn't the smartest or the most popular in class. And in my 20s, I was disappointed by the lack of friendships and dating I had in my life during that time. As I started to transition in my mid-20s, I was disappointed that my career wasn't growing as fast as I thought it would be. Now, the disappointments stem from various paths in my life that I didn't end up choosing. But through each of these life phases and the disappointment and growth that followed, I learned more about myself. I gained strength from going through these experiences and fighting through adversity. One of the biggest lessons that I learned is to not take any one disappointment in my life and let it sink me. I had to figure out a way past that disappointment and move on with my life. This means working through my emotions so I can get to a better place and help prevent it in the future. And as much as I hate the process of going through disappointments, this is wholly unavoidable in life. Disappointments will always occur in the future, so prepare your mind for the eventuality of it. I'll never know when the next one will hit, but at least I'll have a plan for it. So here's how I deal with disappointments. Number 1, taking a pause. The first thing that I always try when I go through a disappointment, but not always succeeding, is taking a pause. This can be in the form of me distancing myself from the situation or just taking time to rest and recuperate from it, and just allow things from that disappointment to settle down a bit. This pause allows you the opportunity to sift through all the complex feelings that you might be going through, and ultimately pave a way for a more appropriate response to your disappointment, in a way that's more thoughtful and might not be from an emotional reaction to it. I try to do this as much as I can through every disappointment that I go through. And I do this before I try to process everything, to just give myself the space to let it all in. Because there are times when you're in a fight or flight mode and you just need to assess the situation and calm down first. When taking this pause, it's best not to think about the situation too much. You don't want to be overwhelming yourself. It's just about getting your mind in an organized state so you're ready for the next thing. So the first thing that I do when I go through a disappointment is to give myself a pause. And the length of time depends on the severity of that disappointment. Number 2, assess emotions. Once you had your pause, allow yourself to fully feel the full emotions of that disappointment. It's okay to be sad, upset, frustrated, or angry at the situation. Don't try to suppress your emotions. Instead, acknowledge them. Acknowledging your feelings through a disappointment is an essential act of self-care. It's a way of honoring your emotional responses to that situation. And it's completely valid and natural to go through this in your life's ups and downs. And this process can help you gain insight to the inner world of your feelings and how you deal with disappointments overall, and help pave the way to healing and more resiliency. This step sucks to go through from personal experience, and it depends on how bad the disappointment was. You can end up going through a whole range of emotions, not once, twice, but maybe multiple times. And this can also take one of the longest steps to actually go through from a disappointment. When you're assessing your emotions, you have to let time and your feelings play out. There's no point in rushing this process because you'll never be able to have closure if you don't go through it. And sometimes when you're going through this process, it also can bring up more negative emotions and reactions from it. But working through the emotional aspects of your disappointment is a crucial step for you. Number 3, set new goals. After a disappointment and going through the emotions, set new goals for your life. This helps you to refocus your energy and motivation to something new and exciting. And these goals can give you a sense of purpose and direction stemming from that disappointment. By creating this sense of purpose, you can let go of the past and focus on the future, because it can critically help you to get out of that helpless phase when we all deal with a certain setback. I always try to set a goal for myself after a major or minor disappointment in my life. This can mean just simply talking to a coworker before I start something, or it can mean a 3 to 5 year plan outlining what I need to do in my life. This step helps me to take back some of the control that the disappointment had influencing my life. And it helps me to mentally prepare for similar disappointments that might occur in the future, so that I can ultimately help mitigate this and lessen the pain. When you are setting these goals after a disappointment, be sure to break it down into as many tasks as you can. This can ensure that each one of these tasks are bite-sized and achievable, because tasks that are overwhelming just won't be completed. And the goal setting that you do is in proportion to the disappointment you encounter. So small disappointments, small goals; major disappointments, major goals. So set that goal after a disappointment to get your emotions straight and ready for the future. Number 4, take action. Once you get your goal set, complete those tasks and work towards your solution. Because action can instill a sense of empowerment within ourselves, and overall reduce the feeling of helplessness when we encounter a disappointment in our lives. When you take action towards your goal, you're moving in a meaningful direction. Because most of the time, disappointing circumstances can spiral into a bout of insecurity within our lives. This means that we can take small actions to get ourselves out of that spiral. We can tell ourselves that we accept what happened and we can make towards a better future. I don't think I would be where I am today without accepting disappointments and having goals directed to fixing them. Even if I feel really bad about a disappointment, I choose proactive steps to try to overcome it for the future. I commit myself to change and see through that completed goal. And once I start seeing results of that action, I start feeling better about myself. As a person who's focused on personal growth and development, this is the key to unlocking the best version of yourself. We have to work towards why a disappointment occurred in the first place and try to fix it as best as we can. So taking action for me was the main key to getting me out of that disappointment phase. And number 5, remember and grow. Consider disappointments as an opportunity for personal growth and development. Ask what you can learn from the experience and how can it make you stronger and wiser for the future. When we go through a disappointment, we usually failed at something. Either it was not following through on a promise or having poor boundaries. In this, you can find a lesson or even a hint of what not to do for the next time. Even though it might not be pleasant to think about, we need to hold some personal disappointments close to our chest so that we retain the lessons we learned from it, and help connect us to the past mistakes and what we've learned from it. I don't tend to forget a lot of the past disappointments in my life, solely because I learned so much from it. And if I can't remember it personally, I choose to write it down so that I have at least a record of what happened in the past. And having that ability to recall the personal disappointments in your life helps you to see how far you've grown since then. So it's crucial that we learn and remember the mistakes or disappointments in our lives. It's the only way that we can try to prevent it from occurring again. So remember that personal disappointment in your life and how we can learn from it in the future. So keep that personal disappointment close to the chest so that we can retain what we learned from it. So here are my thoughts on going through disappointment. Disappointments are not easy to go through, and I don't mean to just distill it down to 5 easy bullet points. I know through experience that going through those 5 bullets after a personal disappointment is very tough and challenging. And ultimately, it'll take a lot of work and emotional processing to get through to the other side. Each person and situation will be different, so we all have to go through our own personal journey to get to the other side of it. So although I outlined a template to follow, you may not necessarily follow my exact template. It's what worked for me. So apply what makes sense for you to go through that disappointment. Lastly, assessing your emotions through this time will be very difficult. I didn't emphasize it too much, but you're going to have to go through some serious emotional pathfinding to get to the other side if the disappointment is large enough. When you're going through this, it's important to practice patience and gratitude as much as you can to yourself. Be mindful and go easy on yourself because it's not the end of the world that you've gone through this in the first place. It's primarily a learning experience and you'll get through it eventually. So that's how I deal with personal disappointments in my life. Dealing with disappointments is a natural part of life. You'll never be able to get rid of it. We can let these disappointments rule our lives and spiral us downward into self-doubt. Or we can use this as a springboard to grow more and better ourselves. It's how you respond and learn from these experiences that you'll ultimately be able to have more resilience and prevent future disappointments from overwhelming you. I've been through my own hell and back, and I have to say that going through your own self-doubt and insecurities are not easy. And even though I've moved on from most of my major disappointments in my life, the after effects are still lingering because I still keep some of my personal disappointments close to my chest and I learn from that continuously, but it also wears on me. But I use those lessons as a growth opportunity, and I try to make a goal for the future to be better. So I hope in some small way I helped others to go through their own version of personal disappointments. So thank you for watching. Please leave a comment down below on how you deal with disappointments, and has it been successful for you or not? And I'll see you next time.